again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. It feels alright.
Good morning all, welcome to NUFC Matters. This is the Eddie Howe press conference show. Aston Villa at home, of course, 3 o'clock kickoff tomorrow. And first up was Reza from BBC. He said that he was asking Eddie Howe, has it been nice to have a clear week this week after 3 games in a week? And he went, yeah, it's been great to have a clear week. They've trained very well and looking forward to the game on Saturday. Reza asked him about injuries. He said, well, there are no new injuries. There's a few bumps and bruises. He was quizzed on Elliot Anderson. He said he's okay now, but he did have a minor niggle, but nothing to worry about. He was also asked by Reza about Callum Wilson. Has he come through the games, having played, the majority of the games, 90 minutes? And he said that he's come through the games very, very well. And I guess he just said, he was asking him about England as well, the possibility of him maybe going to the World Cup. And he said, look, he's hugely motivated for both club and country if it came along. He was asked about Almiron's new contract, which of course has been circulating on social media after a story broke in the press. He said, there is no new contract for Almiron. He said, I've no idea where that's come from. No conversations are taking place with any representatives and any players at this moment in time. They will take place at a later date. Asked about Villa, he did say that he watched the game in depth. Caused a lot of hilarity in the press room, though, when he said that he watches the games without the volume on. That was something we came back to at the end of the press conference as well. He said that he could see that obviously the fact that there's a new manager coming in, we know it's Unai Emery now. He said it's going to be a very difficult game. But he said last week's game, you could see how the crowd had lifted them after the early goal. And he said they played with high intensity. He said it'll be a tough game, and they all are in the Premier League. He was asked why he doesn't listen to the games with commentary. He says, I don't like to deviate my thoughts with commentary. As simple as that. On to Keith Downey from Sky, asked about ASM. He went, ASM's been training well, and he says there is a chance of him featuring tomorrow. He needs to see how training is going to go today. He's asked about the winning run and the unbeaten run. He says winning is everything to us. And then asked about Unai Emery. He said he's a fantastic manager. He's got a great record, great appointment for Villa. But he is in Newcastle, and he's proud to be at Newcastle because obviously Keith touched on the fact that Unai Emery, of course, was linked with potentially taking the Newcastle job before Eddie Howe arrived. So, very, very interesting. That really, really good stuff from Eddie on that. Andy Sixsmith said, what have you learned from the 3-game spell? Of course, he had asked him, what do you think you're going to learn from these games? Well, now those 3 games have played, he said, we've got a really good attitude. We showed commitment. And he said it's been a big confidence boost for the players in the dressing room. And he said consistency is needed, though, over the next few games to back that up. He was asked about Bruno and whether he'd had any sleep. Of course, he's a new dad now. And he said, he hopes he's had a bit more sleep. He says anyone who's been a father will know that sleepless nights are part and parcel of the process. But he did say that he produced that performance against Spurs off the back of the high of becoming a dad. He was also asked about a certain journalist who mentioned that potentially relocating Newcastle's training ground to London would have a massive benefit for the club. Once again, Eddie Howe, as he is like a master batsman at the crease for England, stroked that off by saying he hadn't heard about it. He said, and he said it's a complete non-starter, and the club are so very proud to be associated with the city. So it's absolute nonsense. But said he hadn't heard about it, so there was no reference to the person who made the comment. So we can swiftly move on from that. He also said that you need to be a very good player these days to play for the club, and move into the area like he has with his family is essential. He was also asked by Andy, what does it take to make Europe, to get to Europe? He says you need the right players, you need the right characters, and you need momentum. He says, and momentum is easy to lose, and it's very hard to get a hold of. Also asked about the World Cup break. He says it's got an interesting dynamic. It's going to be, it's going to be the same for everybody. But that was all he said on that question to Andy. Nisha from the BBC Again, was asking about the unbeaten run. He just said, look, I hope we can stay unbeaten. It's all about getting the fundamentals right, which he'd already touched on with Andy Sixsmith. She also asked, is Europe a target? And he said, I don't look that far ahead. He says, I'm looking at the Aston Villa game as the players are, and then we'll refocus after that. So no targets in Eddie Howe's mind. At least that's what he's telling the press. Also, Callum Wilson, who, as we know, has his own podcast, he's either been quoted from that or maybe in the press saying he doesn't want the break if he's not going to the World Cup. She was asked, are you looking forward to the break? And, he just said, look, I like to work. Which coach doesn't? And he says, and I like the coach. But, from his mindset, he's focused on the job in hand. He won't be having a break, apart from the obligatory Christmas Day break, I guess, where he'll have a chance to have a sit down and have a turkey like everybody else. But he said that, really he's treating this like a mini pre-season. And, as well as that, they'll have one eye on January. Chris Conway was up next. He said, is the World Cup break too long? He said, it's very different and it's unheard of, but one which we will try and manage correctly, and we will adapt and make the best use of our time. Chris compared it to the break that we had during COVID. Eddie Howe said to that, he said, well, look, he said, would the COVID experience help? Was Chris's question. And he said the difficulty with a COVID break was essentially that we didn't know how long the break would be. So this is different because you have a time scale. When football stops, when football comes back, and you can work on that accordingly. Chris also asked if the Tottenham win was the most impressive of the season. He went, yes, for many different reasons. He was particularly happy with the way we handled the game after Tottenham scored. All in all, that has been the performance of the season. Damien didn't catch his second name, asked, and he said, if Gareth Southgate rang you today and asked you about Callum Wilson, what would you say? And he just basically said, look, I'd say he's in great shape, his output's good. And he says, and Gareth knows him well anyway, so we will wait and see whether he gets a late World Cup dream over the next few weeks, I guess. He also asked him, he said, Eddie, you come across quite calm, cool and collective. He says, but do you ever, and quite a guy who gives praise to other people, do you ever pat yourself on the back? He says, no, I don't. He says, I like to work hard and continue to work hard. He says, maybe when my career ends, I will look back and I'll assess how well I did then. Jordan Cronin from Newcastle World asked about Isak. He said, Isak's had injections into his thigh. He says, that has gone well. As we know, 5 or 6 week injury means we won't see him until after the World Cup. But he's fully expecting to be fit and ready to train when the second pre-season commences after the World Cup. Also asked about Shelby. He said that he's got a huge role to play. He says he's got experience. He understands his position. I wasn't sure whether that was understands his position on the pitch or whether he meant he understands his position at the club. Interesting. That's what I would have asked if I'd been a journalist at the press conference. But he praised his great passing game and says he's got a big part to play. Miles Starford from the Shields Gazette was up next. He said, asking again about ASM. And he explained that Maxi's in a really good place. He says he's had that setback with the injury. And he said this time round, there's been a steely determination to get his recovery right. He's been having 3 intense sessions a day, 2 at the club, 1 at home. And he said, I just can't speak highly of him. So, good chance that ASM could be involved tomorrow, which is exciting news for Newcastle fans, especially on the run that we'll find ourselves on at the moment. Also asked about the new training ground. He said there's no benefits at the moment because, in fact, it's quite the opposite. He said the team, he revealed today, have actually been in 3 different changing rooms. It's been 3 separate rooms, which, it means I've got to say the players deserve even more praise when they're not in that big one environment together. But the move into the new training training ground facilities next week, and things will start to get better. So hopefully they will benefit from that. Oscar, I believe he's from the Sun. He basically said that the club had a schedule. He said there isn't a schedule. He says not how I work. He says my job was to keep the club up. We did that. We regroup, and now it's all about analysing performances. Again, don't set yourself a target, Eddie. It's not what anybody wants to hear. You just keep doing the job the way you're doing it. The media will always try to get a headline. Kieran said he was asking about, do you get sick of press stories about money and how money is the reason Newcastle are doing well when you've got so many players who were here before who you've managed to turn around. He mentioned Fabian, Shaw, Joe Linton, Miguel Miron, Kieran did. He just said, look, money, Eddie Howe says money doesn't guarantee success. And yeah, it does take it away from some of these players, but it's a collective. Again, stuff we've heard from Eddie Howe many, many times before. Won't ever get caught out, I feel. Lee Ryder always seems to be last, Lee. I wish they would give him a chance to ask the first question. Maybe he would have something a bit more to ask. But he asked about VAR. He said, VAR, he says, is there too much pressure, on VAR? Is it work? And more or less, Lee was trying to get a quote on VAR. He said, look, VAR is contentious, Eddie Howe says. And he says, it's difficult for referees and it's all about opinions. One person on the pitch can see one thing. A person, watching the VAR screens will think another. And he says, that's just the nature of the beast. So that's it. But in hindsight, the breaking news today, I guess, is that Elliot Anderson and ASM both should be okay. No new injuries. And Newcastle United, go into tomorrow's game looking to keep the unbeaten home run going and this great run going. Hope you've enjoyed that. I'll be back 5 o'clock tonight with the three amigos. I'm going to play out with the ads and the end credits. Take care. Bye-bye. A big thanks to all our sponsors, starting with Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals. You can find them at 304 Old Durham Road on Gateshead. Telephone 0191 478 273 or email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or the website darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists. Their website is thegohd.com. And thanks to 3 Property Investments, who specialise in sourcing investment properties for their clients who are looking to invest in the Northeast. They offer a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you. They've done over 100 plus deals in the past 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give the guys a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeast property and phil.reed_northeast property, or email phil@3property.co.uk should you be interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. You can order them by going to the website, mrvickys.co.uk, or by calling 01768 210 102. Thanks to the guys at Blowhole Brewery. You can find them at blowholebrewery.co.uk. Got a vast range of beers. They're a new brewery company, and their cans are suitably addressed, like the Geordie Juice here, in the strips of Newcastle United from the 90s. Big thank you to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things, and to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website. If you want to subscribe, then hit the subscription button. If you want to hit the likes, then hit the thumb up, and please share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify, and the rest goes up 24 hours after the show has finished. If you want to join, well, you can click join underneath the video and become a member for a small fee. If you want to pay the £25 fee and get a cup, a pen, a scarf, a membership card and entry into the monthly draw, then go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and click membership, or use your smartphone on the QR code, which will take you straight there. We also give you a free car sticker. If you're a subscriber, simply email john@nufcmatters.com to claim your free car window sticker today. We also support the food bank on here. NUFC fans foodbank.co.uk is where you can find the matchday bucket and make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. We still do a lot of events in and around the region. If you want to see Super Mac, pre-match and after-match, you can go to the Dog and Parrot in Newcastle and hear Malcolm give his views on the game and listen to what he has to say about his career as well. Always a great afternoon. Kids are welcome. Good food, good beer. And get yourself into Pumphrey's. You can always see John Anderson and John Gibson in there pre-match on the Cloth Market in Newcastle. A couple of events coming up in 2023, an evening with Peter Beardsley, Friday the 10th of February at St Dom's Catholic Club. You can get the tickets direct from the venue. And Peter Beardsley is also at the Tyneside Irish Centre on Friday, February the 17th. Tickets available from Woucher for that one. Get yourself on the Woucher, make a cracking Christmas present for any Newcastle fan. Also, an evening with Rob Lee, Lee Clark and John Beresford, Friday the 2nd of June, 2023 at the Grand Hotel in Gosforth. Tickets for that are available from www.heelandtoe.org.uk/events. And if you fancy a Christmas jumper, get the Bruno Christmas jumper from NUFCmatters.com.